How are we doing with the environment? Now, population's gone from what? 2.5 billion back then to we're pushing 6 or whatever it is now?
6.5.
6.5. Let's see. Air quality got better with the EPA that Mr. Nixon, by the way, started. But what about the big air? What about the global air? What about the composition of that? Not just the carbon dioxide and the stuff that leads to climate change, but what about the chemicals that we have lost that are a little more insidious than DDT, the whole endocrine disruptor thing? That's not just in the air, but now it's in the water and it's in the earth. Where are we with the environment today? In tough shape. Okay, Jack, now to respond to the short version of how I got into this. I did an internship in Washington on the air pollution hearings back in 1965, before my freshman year here. And in 1989, I decided to look back at what was going on and discovered this thing called climate change was really moving around air. So I rolled down to Woods Hole, where George Woodwell was holding court. I was told that I should speak with Woodwell because he knew much about this. You see this gray hair? This is something of a function of that discussion with George. Because he told me, very calmly, very organized, he said, "You ever heard of biotic feedback?" I said, no, it's nothing to do with my speaker, right? No, biotic feedback says as the Earth warms, it will get warmer. There's all this carbon in the tundra and such, and just a little bit of warming means that that'll come out faster and this is a runaway train if it gets out of control. And I said, well, I'm down here because I want to do a book about this stuff. George looked at me and he said, I don't know if anybody's told you, but I don't know that you're really qualified to do this book. I mean, there are people like Steve Schneider, we've got like McElroy, I mean, all these people who know about this. I said, well, doggone it, nobody's doing anything about this on public radio. And so the next thing I knew, I had, he'd called my bluff. I had to put this thing together. So at Earth Day plus 20, April of 1990, I did the first pilots for Living on Earth. And that was great fun, and it's a little bit depressing to look back. First 4 programs, among them, we had Sylvia Earle, her deepness, about the state of the oceans. They haven't gotten better. We did a debate about should nuclear power be rolled out to deal with the threat of climate change. We haven't made progress on that. Jesse Jackson came on the show to talk about environmental justice. And still, it seems that the less you have, the more trouble you're going to have from our environmental degradation. And the one thing that has moved is that when I surveyed potential audience, about 14% of people said that they would want to hear stories about climate change. In other words, 86% of the people did not want to hear about this. Now, if you're in the broadcast business or the media business, and you 86% of your potential audience isn't interested in the subject, how far do you expect to get? Well, again, being from Harvard, having tilted at windmills, whether it was Henry Kissinger here or whatever, I said, you know what? People need to learn this. If they don't think that they need to know this now, they do need to know this. So, Jack, that's what got me into this. And the mission keeps changing, but the one thing that hasn't changed is that I found, just at that day, at Earth Day, that it's all connected. That didn't make sense for me to try to step back because, well, maybe this isn't a civil rights issue, or this isn't the women's rights issue that folks I knew were working on, or whatever. It's all connected. And it's important to keep at it and to keep those connections going for us to really make progress. Because otherwise, if we go into our own little silos, we're done for. The other thing is we have run out of time. Not just me yapping here, but for us as a planet. We've got very little time left until we find a way to turn the system around.